G'day and welcome back for more Space Engineers Survival. And what the heck is going on there at the front of the deck? Oh, did I? Ah, there we go. That's better. I must have done that damage when I ran into the connector. Oopsie. So, a couple of things that we have on the cards today. First up, I'm going to get a bit of this walkway system done so that we can actually use it as I had planned. And then I'm going to mess around a bit with the color and the lighting in the hangar because, as I said last time, it's all looking a bit dull. And I don't think I need those lights on. I think a big part of the problem with the lighting and all of this looking quite boring is the fact that I've made the lighting very functional. I've made it so that it creates a relatively uniform surface, and while that's nice for working in, and if you're going fully for functional, that's exactly what you should aim for, it's not really stylistically all that interesting. So we're going to have to change that up. Now let's get to drilling out under here so that we can get all the way across to the other side. And then we'll have to weld up all of the interior wall plate things that are going to be on the floor. While I was laying out the parking area for the tick, I decided to put the interior wall plates, or interior wall sections, into the blueprint. And the reason I did that is something I can hopefully demonstrate here. If I place one of these just here, for some reason, and I think it's because this block is now its own sort of separate grid, the interior wall block is now rotated if I have my crosshair or the center of the screen directly on that new block. But if I move onto the dirt... If I move onto the... Let's hop up here so I can see. If I move onto the dirt, it will correct that position. But as soon as it's on that again, it flips it. This is a bit awkward when you're placing these down, because you've got to remember this, otherwise you'll do what I've done, which is, if you notice, this block and this block are both incorrectly placed. So I have to remove these and fix that up. And somehow manage to jump up here. Yes, good. So it's important if you're placing grids into voxels and using the snap to the local station grid to actually look at the rock when you're doing that snap to the local grid. Otherwise, you can end up having to place things multiple times, which is kinda annoying. It's not something you're going to be likely to notice with most blocks, but because the interior wall pieces have different appearances on each side, it's a lot more obvious. But conveniently for this section, I used the projection so I can simply go along and it didn't suffer from the same problem. Okay, now let's have a look at how this all looks. Now I do have my headlights off, so this is all just the background lighting that we're getting from the emissive strips. And these emissive strips are part of the problem with my lighting in general in the hangar. Because they create this very uniform background lighting, everything's lit up just a little bit. So to create some more interest in the lights is going to take a bit of extra work. So what I'm going to do first with the Tick's parking spot to try and make it a bit more interesting is actually not something that's going to make it interesting at all. I'm going to fix something. I am going to correct a mistake that I made. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of placing these large containers upside down. So if we have a close look at these number pads, it is quite clearly upside down. And I feel quite silly for doing that. Okay, so to place it the correct way this time, we want that way. Yes. Now that it is fixed, let's rename it back to what we had, which is CC base large. Whoops. Come on. I think. Hopefully. It was something like that. Either way, it's the one that shows up, so that's okay. It's all good. So now let's transfer everything back across. For this second cargo container, I am going to fix it as well. We're going to do something different with the third one. There we go. Cargo container's fixed. And for the last one, we're actually going to do something totally different. And that is, we're going to get rid of it entirely. One of the problems I thought when I looked at the parking space here is that these cargo containers are too uniform. They're too regular. It's just dull having them that way. Yeah, it looks neat, but for a functional garage area, I think things should look a little bit more in use. So what we're going to do is grab some small cargo containers, and we're going to also grab some shelves, and a cool little idea that someone suggested to me that I'm going to do is grab these side tables. And what else do I want? Maybe I could pop a couple of transformer boxes around as well. They always look nice. Yeah. The other side of stuff that I need is that and that, so that we can get a bit more interest in the light around this place as well. Now, before I go and place a bunch of things down, I'm going to try a different paint job. And I'm going to need the painting tool to do this one. To change things up a bit, and oh yeah, that's right. Let's fix this before I forget as well. So we've fixed the cargo containers, but there was something else that I messed up when I was welding, which is I missed a couple of blocks, like this one, and this one, and this one, and this one here, and up in this corner as well over here. There we go. We now have all of those missing pieces welded up. Although, I should probably do that one too while we're here. All of those missing pieces welded up, and we've corrected the orientation of the cargo containers so that they're not upside down. I think I can try. I think I'm going to try something a little bit out there for the hangar. It's all pretty well white. It's the usual company white, but like the ships, I think it'll benefit from a little bit of color. I've tossed up where to put this. I thought we could kind of separate these things into just grays and whites, but again, boring. I didn't like the idea of spraying too much on the ground just yet. We may draw some patterns on there for directions later, but what I think could work is if we turn these yellow. And that was something I didn't realize. I didn't realize it couldn't paint damaged blocks. So that's what I was sort of thinking of doing, is doing these middle sections in yellow, and that's throughout the entire hangar. Let's do them all now, so that we can get a better idea of what it's really going to look like when they're done. And the reason I've used the spray painting tool is, one, because I like it, but two, because getting these corner pieces would have been extremely frustrating trying to do it with the standard painting, using the middle mouse button, because some of the blocks are not accessible with that method. Like with the butterball when I was painting it, this is another one of those situations where, because I placed down all of the blocks first without thinking about color, I need to use the painting tool, or I'd have to grind down and weld back up all of the blocks. So if we look at the Tix parking spot, I think that yellow actually works. It's a highlight on where the support arches are, but it's also not so out there that it's horrible. I mean, it is pretty bright, But then we've got the yellow on everything else, so I think it works for now. There we go. Coming along. I'll do this row since it's the last one that needs doing. Then I want to show another idea I have for adding a little bit more variety in. And then the last thing we're going to do is going to be adding in a whole lot of changes to the lighting in a way that I think will make things look much more interesting. Although, I also do have to design that little extra bit in the corner where the large cargo container was, which I think we can come up with something interesting for. So that's our new hangar design. I think I actually kind of like it. I think it looks nice and warning yellow. Like this would be functional. I will probably do this bit eventually. I'm just not sure whether I do want it yellow or not. The whole secret base thing isn't really served by a big bright yellow arch. Now, the next bit is I think we could do these roof parts in a middle grey. I think the grey we've used on the butterball is too dark. It'll make these completely disappear into the roof. But something in between, like, so this might be alright though. Maybe we'll bring it down to, say, 40%. No saturation, so no colour. How does this look? Maybe that's too dark. Maybe bring that back up to, let's try 50. How does that look? Yeah, I think that's about right. So instead of having these stand out quite so much on the roof, this could make things recede a little bit into the roof. And again, create that little extra sense of depth and... Uh-oh, ran out of ammo. Do I even have enough to make more paint? Production. I must. Let's get some more chemicals. Alright, now we got plenty of paint. So back to what we're doing. So having the different colors, I think, helps just create that extra sense of depth, and then we'll enhance that with what we're going to do with our lighting shortly. Alright, let's have a look at how this looks, how this has turned out with the 3 different colors. And I know that's quite subtle, the grey difference, particularly with the lighting the way it is, but I feel like it kind of helps, since now those roof bits look like they're in the dark, even though they're actually just a different color. And I wonder if the same will help with in here. There we go. How does that look? I think that actually works reasonably well. It's subtle. I wanted to go with subtle. I didn't want this to be a really obviously different color. I wanted to sort of hint at maybe being a slightly different material or a different way of manufacturing the same material, something like that. Like these have been welded together as opposed to built all in one thing. So next thing to do is grab a couple of these cargo containers, and I'm going to place these in different colors. Now, do I want them all up the right way as well? These ones I think I'll deliberately place some the wrong way. Like they've just been dumped there. And a couple in a different grey, a couple in the usual white. Maybe just like that. Yeah, that'll work. So these will actually, because of the way I placed them, that wasn't entirely random, they'll actually be connected up to the base's storage system. So they will be functional, even though they're not really that functional because they're so small. But if I end up needing a small storage space for something, I think they'll be just fine. But I like the idea of having a few of these messily placed around to give the hangar a bit more of a roleplay functional feel to it. And just for a bit more variety, make that one a little lighter. And maybe... Actually, that'll be fine. I'm going to leave it like that. So there we go. We've got a small little pile of extra cargo containers off to the side, just like these have all been placed, as opposed to them being a part of the base, which is kind of the feeling I prefer to have with the cargo containers. On ships, I take a different approach, but in a base, I like them to feel like they've just been put there for storage. As in, dumped off a cargo vehicle of some sort. Now, I want to put some of these shelves out, but I wanted to show something first. Unfortunately, the drill that used to rest on these shelves no longer has textures, so we don't want to weld this up to its final state, because that will show that purple drill. But all the other build states are still fully functional. And I think I actually want these to be in our middle grey. Yeah, I do, because that makes the shelf colour better. So, in terms of welding these partially, I need some girders. So that's our empty build state. That's our got some stuff. So we'll do a mix of different appearances. Oops, too far. There we go. So we'll have some shelves like that. So another idea I thought was cool, and we've got a nice bright red, is grab a side table there and another side table there, and make them a little bit like sort of a your stereotypical Snap-on Tools style toolbox. Although maybe they don't align quite well enough to each other to do it that way. I think what I might do is do this. There we go. And what else do we need over here? What else can we use? Maybe I will put... Ooh, what about putting these in yellow? That could certainly work. I need some steel plate to place one though. So we put a transformer box up there. This has power cell components, so I wonder if this actually works as a battery. Let's see, if we go into control panel. I wonder if it is. What might it be under? Transformer box. It does! It is! It's a real battery! Awesome! So if I pop these around the base as well, we'll end up with some extra battery power that I hadn't even planned for. Oh, that's cool. It's not a lot of battery power, but it's a little bit. Nice. I might be putting in a few more of those. I do like it in yellow. Makes it stand out a bit. Now, the other thing I thought we could do in here, I don't need these anymore, is grab one of those, grab that, and I think that's all. So I had an idea. It had been suggested to me, and I thought it would be kind of cool, but worked out that it would be next to impossible to pull off, was to have this piston able to recede into the floor. Unfortunately, since the connector is a full cube in terms of its collision box, we'd need blast door blocks all the way around here so that it could slide in, and I didn't think that would look very nice. But to try and make this connector look a bit more interesting, what I thought we'd do is grab a console curve there, another curve there, and these are all from Colt's Command Console pack. Then, in here, use this console straight, because it's actually a button panel, and have it control the height of this piston. So we'll have a button to reverse direction, and then two more buttons to increase or decrease the maximum height of the piston, so that we'd be able to line it up while standing here to whatever vehicle is due to be connected to this piston. And we can use the same setup with all of the other ones that I've got planned, which I think could be kind of fun. So let's get these welded up, which might take a little bit of time, because I may not have enough display. Oh, I've got plenty of displays. Okay, so with this console in place, what we can do is disconnect the tick. 5. Just move it out a little bit. Park there. And what I want to actually do with this is hop into our piston. That's the tick parking connector piston. And set our minimum distance to 1.25. And our maximum distance we'll set to 3. The reason I did that is because what I want to do is actually add a corner light down in here. And what I'm going to do with this corner light is actually give it a yellow color eventually. But with that set up that way, what we can do is grab this button and go piston, tick parking. We'll go reverse for the first one. Then we'll go increase maximum distance and decrease maximum distance. So now, if I click on this button, it'll come back down. And then if I click on this button, we'll go higher when we click reverse. What did I do? Oh, I did decrease. That's the decrease distance. Splitsie, you're an idiot. There we go. So I can just click and raise it until it lines up where I need it. And then when I'm ready for the tick to connect, I can just reverse and it goes straight back down to the tick's position. And the tick's position, I'm pretty sure, will be one of the lowest. So that's why I think it's a good minimum distance selection for this. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. We've got a little bit of interesting stuff around here. We got this in here. So with our lighting, I have two things I want to do. First, what I want to do is adjust these overhead lights so that they're a bit more interesting. And then secondly, what I want to do is grab some corner lights and place them around the side. So one there, one down here. I reckon maybe 1, 2, 3 apart. And this one will be 1, 2, because on the opposite side I'm actually going to place the corner light in against the interior wall in here. Like that. Then 1, 2, 3 there. 1, 2 there. 1, 2, 3 there. Yay, that worked out. Good. So with those placed, I can now make them a whole new group of lights. I can find out what names the lights overhead have so that we can make them a group. And then we should be able to adjust these all together. Even with it all in white, it still is a bit more interesting. So what are these lights? If I wanted to quickly find out the name, we go interior light 19, interior light 20. These are probably going to be 17, 18, 19, and 20. No. 19, 20, 21, and 22. Yep. Okay. So let's make some names. 19, 20, 21, 22. Block group. Let's create a new lights name. So I'm going to start with Z as our beginning letter so that the lights groups go right down the bottom of the list in the groups list, as they're the ones I'm least likely to need to interact with. And this will be tick, parking, roof, and save. Those no longer need to be shown in terminal. And now we can go corner lights, and all of these are the new ones. And these are going to be Z lights, and that will be tick, parking, floor. Save, show block and terminal off. And now when we look here, we'll see that those lights groups are way down the bottom of the list, which I think is going to be a better way of doing things. And I'll eventually get around to cleaning up this list at some point in the probably very distant future. So let's change our floor lights. First off, I think I would like these to be quite yellow. That's sort of orange. maybe make this 140. How does that look? Yeah. Alright. Then what we're going to do is make these floor lights have a little bit bigger radius. Let's go to 4.5. And intensity down to 2. How does that look? That's a bit better. So that's a little more interesting. Now, our overhead lights, what are we going to do with them? Roof lights. Let's make them a little teensy bit yellow as well. So I'm going to take the blue down to 240. Just to give this a bit more of a... Well, just to take away a bit of that clean white light and make it a bit more dirty industrial lighting. I think it's sulfur lights or something. Put our fallout to 1.5, intensity up to 1. And I want to leave the offset fairly small because I actually don't want the roof to be lit so much by these. Now, how's this looking? It's a bit more interesting now. Yeah. Yeah, looking down there, it doesn't look anywhere near as dull as it once did. I've been thinking about these brick walls, or the rock walls, and I do want these to be exposed rock. I upstairs used the glass to cover them up, but I think that looks too refined for a hangar space. I don't think we need glass all in here. Whereas upstairs, because it's a living area and it's people moving around and it's not a functional area, the glass I think makes a lot more sense. And it looks nicer. And I think having the two areas look different so that the living, functional people area is a bit nicer. Now, maybe what I will do is actually reduce this. Let's try 17 meters. Ooh. Maybe that does look better. I know the floor's not quite as bright, but it means that these yellow lights, what I could do with them is go floor, increase their radius up, let's say 8. How's that look? Ooh, there we go. If I make the yellow lights on the floor, the warning lights cast out a bit further, we can start getting the yellow onto the walls, which is a bit more interesting, but that's probably a bit too much. Let's try that again. Floor, let's go with 6. Yeah, that's a bit better. It's not quite so over the top. But this one here, I might actually make a bit brighter than the others or spread out a bit further. Let's go to 10. So that the tick kind of has a bit of an illumination on it, from it. The tick's mostly in the dark, but I think... Yeah, I think I'm fairly happy with this. I think this works. It's certainly a lot more interesting than it was. I like this little corner here with our sort of messy work area. Yeah. There might be a few small changes that I want to make in the future for this, but for now, if we enter the way that we should by foot, walking through the bright white corridors, and then up here, yeah, I'm happy with that. What I could do to make things a bit more interesting around the edges is maybe even use these and place some railings along here. And of course I don't have construction components. I am never carrying quite what I need. How does that look? I think this might look good. I might be able to do it throughout other parts of the hangar as well. How's that? Oh yeah. Yeah. I am happy. That will do for the redesign of our tick parking spot. I think it's got a much more interesting design now, which is good. And makes me much, much happier. So last time we had the explosion with the connector for the Buttercup, and a few people thought this might have been a power-related issue. I don't think so. I think because the connector was so badly damaged, my suspicion is that that happened first, and that's what caused the Buttercup to drop. I think the ideas that are most likely to be correct are, one, a few people have also experienced a similar explosion in a connector setup like this when they've been building other connectors. Perhaps even this piston setup might have been the problem, and for some reason the realignment of the subgrids or something along those lines caused damage. The collision boxes between the cockpit and these armor blocks and this connector shouldn't be an issue because, as I understand it, and I could definitely be wrong here, these two connectors, once they're locked, make the Buttercup turn into a subgrid, and subgrids shouldn't cause damage anymore. While I'm here, I'm going to fix something which has bugged a couple of people. I'm going to make that grey. There we go. And what I'm also going to do is turn on our batteries, turn off our battery recharge, and I'm going to unlock and turn on. And now I am going to do something that Izzy suggested to me with his recharge script, as well as I am going to move this connector, and hopefully nothing will fall off when I do that. Okay, now we need a conveyor frame. Where's conveyor frame? There we go. Then we need a connector on top of that. And that should give me a little bit of extra. Oops. Don't want it in grey, want it in yellow. That'll give me a much easier parking job. There we go. So, that's going to make parking a lot easier. Even though I did prefer the profile as it was before. I think practicality wins out here. What else I'm going to do before I reconnect this is go to this piston. And the current position is 2.6, so that will be its minimum distance. And its maximum distance, I'm guessing somewhere around 7. Let's see if I can fit underneath it at that. The idea here is I want it to be nice and easy for me to rearrange this so that if I do have another disconnect, the Buttercup doesn't get badly damaged when it drops. I don't really want to put armor skids on the bottom of it. I kind of like its setup at the moment. Let's set that to 5. Is 5 going to be alright? Yeah, I think 5 will be pretty good. That'll only be a very small drop. Yeah, that'll be fine. Oops. So I can easily just put a button somewhere around here and use that, but for now, let's just set that up. And the thing that Izzy suggested to me. First off, I'm going to remove this from my hotbar because I don't like it being right near my disconnect. Because I have a habit of hitting the wrong button sometimes, and I don't want to do that. Now, if we go into our recharge script, we can go to edit. We can go down, we can go to browse workshop, and we can get the newest version. Which is a ship refueler. Okay. There we go. Now, with our... Where are we? Timer trigger on event. That's what we want. What we want to set up here is a way for our connector to behave as it normally would if I didn't have all these other complex scripts running. So we'll have a function that happens on connect. We'll have a function that happens on disconnect. Then we'll set up what these functions are, which is we're going to activate BC timer block, and we're going to also activate it on disconnect. Okay, check code. Okay, remember an exit. And now, in theory, this should be activated. Now, the other thing that is important for this particular application is that this delay is exactly 1. What Izzy did after we tested this out a little bit was set it up so that when the delay is exactly 1 second, it will actually use the trigger now function, not a start function. So a start function will give the delay. A trigger now will just activate it as soon as it possibly can. And the 1 second delay was enough for the whole ship, when I was testing this out in creative, to explode. So having the trigger now means that this should all work. So let's test this out. If we grab our connector and we go switch lock, let's see first of all how much easier this is to park. And it already looks a bit easier. Now, is everything going to explode? In 3, 2, 1, lock. Perfect. And if we check out our batteries, we'll see that it is charging. What is the other battery called? What did I do? I can never seem to find it. Maybe I'll hop out and see what it is called. Battery 3. Battery. Why doesn't it show up? Maybe one of them's not set to... It mustn't be... It must be... I must have turned it off. Visibility. Yeah, there we go. Show blocking terminal, yes. Okay. So now these two are going to recharge. Then, when I disconnect, everything should work. But just in case, because I'm getting nervous, let's hit reverse. Let's drop this down to the safe height. So now you'll see that the drop is very small, so hopefully I won't get much damage if things go bad. And then we disconnect, and it turns on. And it's perfect! Izzy, you've done it again. This is brilliant. And now this is all working perfectly, which is why I love Izzy's help on this stuff. And the combination effort here between 1WSX10's tips on how to fix the vector thrust script and Izzy's work on the recharge script so that this all works perfectly. I'm very lucky. I am very lucky to be getting help from such amazing people that are a lot smarter about this stuff than I am. A lot smarter. One other thing that I was suggested for the Tix parking spot, which I really like the idea of, I just haven't quite worked out exactly how to do it yet, which is placing some LCDs around here with status displays for the tick and maybe a little bit of extra random information as well. And I'm thinking we might... I wonder if I can put it up here somehow. That would be the best spot, but how would I do that? Suppose if I turned that conveyor corner into a conveyor junction, I'd have somewhere I could attach the LCD to. I could even then put an LCD on each side and maybe even extend this and put... Ooh, let's try this. This could be interesting. This could make this very interesting. Let's disconnect and move the tick out of the way. And what we're going to need to do is grind down this sucker. Alright. If we grab our conveyor junction, I'd put the tube there because I thought it would be the best look, but I suspect we'd go with this junction although that could be a problem. The problem I just noticed is that as I place this conveyor junction, the whole thing leant to the side, which I suspect means that it's not going to let me place an LCD here. Yeah. Oh. Maybe it's because I don't have the plate. No. It's also intersecting with this console here. So if I... What if I raise this ever so slightly, while hopefully still being okay for connection? Moving up to 1.5. No. Okay, will that let me do it? Yes! So what I can do is I can place an LCD panel on each of these 3 sides and have some displays on them. Extend these consoles out so that their corner pieces will come around here. If we then have our connector on here, let's see if this is still going to work out okay for the tick. Oops. I think it will still be fine. Yeah. There's a little bit of fudge factor that we can use there, so that's fine. Excellent. This could look cool. I could be real. I'm really excited about this. Really excited. Okay, so to be able to place these consoles in, I'm going to need to move the tick out of the way. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. But it can connect, that's good. Let's lift our piston up. Now we can place our consoles. One there. And one here. Now I don't know if we need to put the curve on since we've got these bits. I think it might actually look funny if we do. I think we'll just leave it as the square ends. This looks a bit funny when the LCDs are up, but there's not much I can do about that. When we bring it down though... Ooh, did that cause damage? No, it won't cause damage because it's pistons and rotors. So I reckon this could look pretty cool. Having the LCDs up there. Yeah, I like it. I haven't decided what to put on these LCDs yet, but I'd like to put like battery status scripts and things like that. If you've got any ideas of interesting things I could put on there, let me know, as I would like to put some interesting info up there. I think I might do a connector design similar to this, or some sort of console design similar to this in the future, because this has actually worked out much better than I'd expected. Sure, it looks funny when we lift it up, but when it's down here and the LCDs are resting nicely on there, I think it looks pretty decent. Yeah. I could have made a console here with a rotor and made small block things, but I actually reckon that this works out nicer than anything I've ever designed using that technique. As I said, if you've got ideas of things to put on there, let me know. For next time, I've actually got something interesting planned. What I want to do is, first off, get some lights onto the solar tower so that it's easier to see at night. I'm going to go with some red warning lights around it, maybe some red warning lights on top of the cabin as well. And that is in preparation for a little construction that's going to be happening at the top of that little hill, on the top of that rocky outcropping right in the center of screen. And that's because I'm going to do something to the enemy base that is going to make, well, it's going to put me under a bit more pressure. And with that little teaser, there's that and plenty more to come. So I'll see you then.